Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to give it just a minute for more folks out in the waiting room to pile in and find their seats, so to speak. All right, it looks like our attendee numbers are stabilizing a bit, so we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening and welcome to the Wellness Wednesday Virtual Town Hall. I'm Eston Melton. I'm the Executive Director of Information Services. I'll moderate tonight's virtual town hall. Thank you for joining us this evening. We hope that this information, the information that we provide will alleviate at least some of the anxiety that we know that you all are feeling. Although you will not be able to ask questions during the webinar itself live, the link to submit questions is still open on the CSD website, as well as the opening2020@csdcatur.net email inbox. CSD has three pillars that keep our work focused on our vision and mission. These three pillars are advancing racial equity, accelerating student learning, and building and sustaining a positive school climate. We believe that our work in these three core areas, whether it happens in person or virtually, will result in helping our students be their best, achieve their dreams, and make the world a better place. Tonight's agenda will start with an introduction of some of our equity and student support leaders. They will provide an overview of how Wellness Wednesday will operate during virtual learning, followed by common questions and answers regarding the components of Wellness Wednesday. If time permits, we'll see if we can answer any additional questions that have come in recently. And finally, we'll share where to find more information and what next steps we are taking as a district to plan for in-person instruction as soon as possible. As you can see from our lineup of presenters tonight, there are several components to discuss related to Wellness Wednesday. Parents, please know that at every level of planning, we consider the needs of students related to social and emotional development, as well as the need of families to navigate virtual learning while maintaining their mental health and well-being. In addition, at every level of planning, the various program leaders have been included in determining how we can safely open the 2020 school year and the implications for educational programming. And those district leaders to whom I will shortly hand over this presentation are Dr. Lillie Huddleston, Executive Director of Equity and Student Support, Mrs. Diane Andre, Student Success Coordinator, Mr. Benjamin Knable, School Psychology and 504 Coordinator, and Dr. Mary Banks, District Equity Coordinator. And I'm now happy to turn this over to Dr. Lillie Huddleston, our Executive Director of Equity and Student Support. Dr. Huddleston.
Thank you so much, Eston. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to join us to learn more about Wellness Wednesday. We've received a number of questions about Wellness Wednesday, and it's our hope that by the end of this presentation, most of your questions will be answered. Our district is focused on supporting the development of the whole child. Wellness Wednesday is a dedicated time each week to focus on the well-being of our community, including students, staff, and parents. The National Institute of Wellness defines wellness as an active process through which people become aware of and make choices that promote a more successful existence. While this work has always been integrated into multiple aspects of educational programming in the district, never has it been more important for us to have a consistent and comprehensive approach to addressing social, emotional, and physical health of our students. CSD is committed to using the equity lens we apply to all our programs, initiatives, and professional learning opportunities to celebrate and be inclusive of diversity based on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, and other cultural characteristics. Next, we will hear from Diane Andre, our Student Success Coordinator, to learn more about our approach to Wellness Wednesday in the City Schools of Decatur.
Thank you, Dr. Huddleston. Providing social emotional learning and support is not new to CSD. Social emotional learning begins in the early grades with crew and community circle and continues with the development of the IB learner profile, as well as the work of school counselors across the district. CSD furthered its commitment to students' well-being with the creation of the Decatur Student Center. The Decatur Student Center began at the high school during the 2017-18 school year, but has quickly expanded to be a K-12 initiative with the addition of Sabrina Shields as the Student Success Counselor at Renfro Middle School, where we are developing another physical center space, as well as the addition of 2 CSD therapists, Fonta High, our part-time therapist for the middle and high school, and Jacob Dreiling, better known as JD, who is a play therapist that will be working with students at multiple levels. And they, along with our community partners, will be providing services on Wellness Wednesdays and other days as well. Wellness Wednesday was created in part to further enhance emotional skill development for CSD students. As a school system, we feel it's particularly important to focus on students' social, emotional, and physical well-being due to the trauma of the very real moment in which we find ourselves. Additionally, research shows that social emotional skills are directly related to students' academic achievement. Wellness Wednesday will focus on the types of skills required to care for and advocate for oneself and others. Things such as self-regulation, responsibility, empathy, and self-discipline, which are shown to be more predictive of future success, both in our personal and professional lives, than intellectual ability alone. So Wellness Wednesday will consist of 2 components. The first is choice offerings for students, staff, and the community provided by the district and the local school. Choice offerings will include such things as yoga, story time, cooking classes, and step challenges, to name a few, and will be offered through synchronous and asynchronous formats. And just to be clear, these are only offerings. If you choose as a family to meet your students' wellness needs in another way, such as bike riding, taking a hike, going for a hike, making up schoolwork, whatever you feel is appropriate for your student and your family, the day offers flexibility. The local school will send information about the offerings in their weekly e-blast. District offerings will also be posted on the district website under Wellness Wednesday. Now, while the choice offerings are optional, Wellness Wednesday also includes a K-12 social emotional curriculum called CLearning, which is required for all students and will be delivered synchronously at set times each week. To access the link for the CLearning class, K-5 students will have a link in their teacher's homeroom, and grades 6 through 12 will find the link in their advisement teacher's class. The C Equity course, which will begin in September, is required for secondary students only, and Dr. Banks will tell us more about this curriculum in a few moments. Right now, to tell you more about the CLearning program is Ben Knable, our school psychology and 504 coordinator.
Thanks, Diane. Social Emotional and Ethical Learning, or CLearning, is a K-12 education program developed at Emory University to provide high-quality, easy-to-use curricula and resources for educators and students for their holistic development based on the latest knowledge and educational practice in scientific research. CLearning builds upon the best practices in social emotional learning, or SEL programs, but expands on them to include new topics such as attention training, the cultivation of compassion for self and others, resiliency skills, systems thinking, and ethical discernment. The importance and effectiveness of social emotional learning has long been the subject of research in the field of education. The findings come from multiple fields and sources, including student achievement, neuroscience, health, employment, psychology, classroom management, learning theory, economics, and the prevention of youth problem behaviors. Research findings demonstrate that education promoting social and emotional learning gets results. Studies have shown that students participating in SEL programs exhibit improved classroom behavior and increased ability to manage stress and depression, and better attitudes about themselves, others, and school. Further, SEL programs that address fundamental socio-emotional competencies increased students' academic performance by 11 percentile points compared to students who did not participate in such SEL programs. Due to the continued positive research around social emotional learning, 6 of the top 10 skills identified by the World Economic Forum involve social and emotional competence, and 92% of surveyed executives say skills such as problem solving and communicating clearly are equal to or more important than technical skills. Companies such as Allstate, Bank of America, and Google are prioritizing SEL. SEE learning, C-learning, has been developed with the help of a team of experts in developmental psychology, education, and neuroscience. C-learning is a project of Emory University's Center for Contemplative Sciences and Compassion-Based Ethics. It seeks for students to be active agents in their own learning and well-being. This agency comes from having the right capabilities to handle the challenges of everyday life. C-learning is based upon a comprehensive framework that has 3 dimensions: awareness, compassion, and engagement. These 3 dimensions are experienced in 3 different domains: the personal domain, the social, and the systems domain. Together, they form 9 components of the C-learning framework: self-awareness, self-compassion, self-regulation, interpersonal awareness, compassion for others, relationship skills, appreciating interdependence, recognizing common humanity, and community and global engagement. This framework seeks to increase the capacity for ethical engagement in children's lives, communities, and the world around them. C-learning aligns with many of the social, emotional, and character development initiatives that are already happening in CSD. It teaches skills directly related to the core competencies of social emotional learning outlined by the Collaborative Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, also known as CASEL. It reinforces restorative practices such as circles, effective language, and community building, and is embedded with the most recent resiliency-based and trauma-informed practices that help children overcome adversity and build emotional and behavioral regulation skills. C-learning also helps to reinforce the character development and learning profiles of the experiential learning and international baccalaureate curricular frameworks. C-learning is consistent with the district improvement plan pillars of advancing racial equity and building and sustaining a positive school climate. It helps to build courageous compassion for others and a recognition of common humanity that values all people everywhere. The component of interpersonal skills, which includes skillful communication and empathetic listening, supports our work of fostering courageous conversations about race. C-learning encourages a proactive and positive approach to behavior consistent with PBIS initiative and expounds on the idea that all individuals contribute to the school climate through the component of interdependence in a systems framework. The C-learning curriculum consists of 7 chapters or units and a final capstone project. Each chapter begins with an introduction that outlines the major content of the chapter, followed by 3 to 7 learning experiences or lessons. Each learning experience is designed to take 20 to 40 minutes, depending on the age of the participants. For the purposes of Wellness Wednesday, we will focus on chapters 1 and 2. These chapters center on creating a compassionate and kind classroom, as well as teaching kids basic self-awareness and stress management skills. The strategies presented in these chapters are designed to provide children with the capability to increase resiliency and positively cope with challenging feelings. The C-learning lessons all follow the same progression. The lesson begins with a settling in practice to help the participants center themselves and clear their minds. Next is a check-in to see how the participants are feeling and build connections within the group. After the check-in, there will be a presentation or discussion about the lesson's learning topic, followed by an insight activity that helps to spark critical insights and thoughts. The lesson then ends with a reflection activity and debrief that guides learners in making thoughtful connections that anchor the learning. Next, I will hand it over to our District Equity Coordinator, Dr. Mary Banks.
Thanks, Ben. C, equity. is a synchronous learning program that dovetails with CLearning's social and emotional development programs. It will begin September 16. C-Equity helps students examine equity as it relates to dominance and oppression within systems, and creates a space where students are able to question how to change policies within institutions and how to better relationships between individuals. So why C-Equity? As we were made painfully aware of this summer, students, families, educators, and other members of society experiencing racism cannot afford to wait for us to saunter toward racial equity commitments at a pace of our own choosing, while they suffer the consequences of our casualness. If CSD is to truly be a system committed to equity, the time for learning and change is now. Thus, in C-Equity sessions during Wellness Wednesdays, students will not only learn about racial inequity, but also identify steps to challenge racial inequity. C-Equity's key goals are to help students develop their racial consciousness and cross-cultural awareness, to empower students with the confidence and tools to discuss race, and to engage students in identifying and implementing ways to be anti-racist. The C-Equity acronym itself undergirds what the program is all about. Not only do we want students to see equity as a viable possibility for our world, we want them to be scholars, students in grades 6 through 12. We want them to be scholars who are examining, reflecting upon their own understandings about race and developing deeper understandings about the social construct of race, systemic racism, and other related topics. We want them to be scholars who are examining and who are engaging equity, learning and using skills to interrupt racism through anti-racist practices, such as bystander intervention, eliminating cyber hate, or identifying microaggressions. C-Equity is aligned with CSD's improvement plan in two of its three pillars: advancing racial equity and building positive culture and climate. Under advancing racial equity, C-Equity helps to build courage to examine self, communicate with others in honesty around issues of race, and recognize a common humanity. C-Equity also builds effective interpersonal skills, such as skillful communication, knowledge of racial terminology and systemic outcomes, and empathetic listening, all necessary when becoming global citizens. Under building a positive culture and climate, C-Equity fosters a proactive and positive approach to behavior, consistent with PBIS initiatives, restorative practices, and many other relevant school-based initiatives. C-Equity is also aligned with two areas of CSD's Equity Action Plan: normalize, in which we endeavor to normalize conversations about equity, and organize, in which we organize district processes and procedures to enhance equity. C-Equity will consist of 6 lessons and a final student capstone project. Lesson 1, Let's Talk About Race, where students will examine basic definitions and understandings of race. Lesson 2, Race in Your Life, where students examine their own racial identity and reflect upon how that identity impacts their everyday experiences. In Lesson 3, The Social Construction of Racial Biases and Beliefs, students will examine the fallacy of race as a physical entity and discuss the ways in which race has been socially constructed. In Lessons 4, Microaggressions, we will examine various types of microaggressions and explore how students can avoid engaging in microaggressions. Lesson 5 examines cyber hate and social media responsibility. And Lesson 6, in which students tell stories of their own racialized experiences and reflect upon making tangible steps toward anti-racism. Each C-Equity class meeting will follow a typical sequence. There will be an introduction, an introduction to or reminder of the courageous conversations about race, compass, and parameters. There will be video clips, student activities, a closing which may include a debrief or journaling, and a home study activity or assignment. Over to you, Eston.
Thank you, Dr. Banks, and thank you all. A couple of questions that have pinged up recently. The one, and I think this might be for you, Dr. Huddleston. The question is, our family would love to have this time to get outside, hike, bike, yoga, et cetera, as part of maintaining wellness, or even to catch up on weekly schoolwork. Will we have the flexibility to do this?
Thank you, Eston, for that question. I think we may have touched on that a little bit earlier in the presentation, but CLearning, Wellness Wednesday is designed to be a time with some flexibility. It's our hope that parents and families will use this time to engage in activities that help them to feel more whole in these challenging times. So Ms. Andre mentioned that there are some components of this day that are required. So the CLearning is required for K through 12, and that will be one session per week. In addition, for students in grades 6 through 12, they will be expected to attend C-Equity as well. So other than those two components, there'll be things that are offered from the school and other activities that are offered from the district level. And those are things that parents can spend some time with their students and determine which of those they want to participate in on Wednesday. But if they choose to spend that time to come together as a family, to have some activity, to review lessons from other parts of the week and their other academic requirements, we encourage that. We don't want this to become a day that's just crowded with demands and then people are no longer able to take the time they need for that enrichment and well-being.
Roger, thank you. That's helpful to hear, both as your colleague and as a parent. Here's second question we've gotten a few times. Will attendance be taken on Wellness Wednesdays?
I can go ahead and take that one, Eston. Thank you. Yes, attendance will be taken on Wellness Wednesdays. Attendance on Wellness Wednesdays will be taken during the synchronous presentation of CLearning and C-Equity. Attendance will be documented through the homeroom teacher's Google Classroom for grades K through 5. Grades 6 through 12 will be documented through their Google Classroom advisement teacher. Now, while required Wellness Wednesday classes will not be graded, the participation and engagement with the programs will be incorporated into PBIS initiatives, and it will also foster proactive behaviors that create the foundation for a stronger school climate and community.
All right, swell, thanks, Ben. Dr. Huddleston, back to you.
Thank you. So we're coming to the close of our presentation, and we want to make sure that you know about next steps. We are working with community partners, such as the Decatur Parents Network and the Decatur Education Foundation, to ensure that we're able to provide Wellness Wednesday offerings that meet the needs of our community. If you're interested in proposing a topic, feel free to reach out to your school counselor to let them know. We welcome you to participate in Wellness Wednesday with your child. And whether you join in a session to learn stress management techniques and strategies, or use part of the day for family exercise and connection, it will serve to bring well-being during this stressful time. Wellness Wednesday was developed to be responsive to the needs of our community. And we're proud to be able to focus on this important work as a school district. The skills and strategies offered through CLearning and C-Equity will provide students with the tools and resources to be their best, achieve their dreams, and make the world a better place.
All right, well, thank you all. So parents, next steps and what you can expect from us. You can expect to hear about Wellness Wednesday through school and district e-blasts, through your child's or children's homeroom or advisement Google Classrooms. and the district website. If you have any questions, you can also contact us through the opening2020@CSDecatur email address. Thank you all for joining us both this evening and for the slew of town halls we've done the last week and a half or so. We appreciate you all protecting the time to join us. We hope that the investment in your time has been really to your benefit. Thank you all, and we are really looking forward to seeing your children on Monday. Have a good night.